And we are now live. 2 minutes. What's up, y'all? Sean Telez here with my buddies, as always, Richard Romero and Raul Villarreal, coming to you live in a little bit of a different looking Texas soccer live format. Boys, how you doing this evening?
I'm
Richard?
doing good.
Yo, how's it going, everybody? It's good to be back. This whole pandemic has really taken us by surprise. I think it took us a while to figure out a way to get back, and thankfully, thanks to Sean, here we are, staying safe at home, washing our hands. But unfortunately, this has taken a big hit on all of us around the world, and especially with soccer. So hopefully tonight we'll be bringing y'all more information on what's been going on in soccer.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Last time we were all on a live stream, if you guys turned on to episode 33, that was our anniversary show. And that was, I looked back, that was what, March? We did it on the 6th or 7th. And so literally, no, it was on the 13th. So it was 14th, right when all this stuff went down. So Saturday the 14th. So yeah, we haven't been on since. And since then, we went on that show. Liga MX was the only league left still playing, and they quickly fell. So no soccer, unfortunately, going on. But that's not to say that there hasn't been a lot happening in the world of soccer. So we got an exciting show for y'all this evening. We hope y'all enjoy it. Let us know format. Make sure you're commenting, you're sharing. For those of you watching this on playback, we got 5 topics. One kind of brand new to us. Today we have our first, what I would consider our first outside guest interview. So I'll get to that in a second. But first, we're going to hop over to Europe, and we're going to look at some of the reactions to COVID-19 and the whole situation with the European leagues, just real quick, and see kind of what they're doing and kind of what's the potential long-term effects of this. And then, next I'm going to bring on my cousin in segment 2, Michael Black. He's a local Houston soccer product, graduating from Friendswood High School this year, just named their district MVP, and is going to be playing at my alma mater, Trinity University in San Antonio. So we always talk about local soccer on here and kind of get the perspective of the soccer culture here in Texas. So there's nobody better than someone who's actually has lived it and is living it right now as a player. So we'll have Michael Black on here in about 10 minutes or so, a little less. Then in number 3, we're going to come back here to the U.S., talk about the MLS and U.S. soccer, some developments going on there. Then we'll go south of the border to Liga MX and all the kind of craziness that went down there the last couple of weeks in terms of no more promotion or relegation and the effects of that. And number 5, I'll go on a little bit of a rant about how stupid FIFA is and how you shouldn't have soccer players playing FIFA. So let's jump right in, guys. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with it. But, one of the things that I've been looking at is, in Europe, for example, there's no consistent answer. So the big update I was going to give you all is, Bundesliga right now is the only one that came out pretty firm, and it's changed a little bit. They're still trying to target, of course, none of this with fans. They're trying to target a comeback sometime in middle of this month, in May. I don't know if that's going to happen. Poland, their Polish league is talking about at the end of the month. And then you have the other extreme. You have the Netherlands, the Dutch league, that has said, nope, we're done. This year didn't happen, didn't exist. No champion, no nothing. We'll start fresh next season. So kind of a wide range of effects. So the one thing I want to start off with you guys is, and Raul, I guess I'll start off with you, then we'll go over to Richard. Kind of, which one of these approaches do you think is the most appropriate? The let's still try to hope and try and make it happen without fans, or let's just put a big cancel on this season and start over?
I think I see it more as they should have just postponed it to try and play later on, because if you cancel out this year, whoever was going to win the title, you basically leave a vacant spot. And a lot of teams, they go after, I have this many titles, or I have this many titles. We're supposed to be tied or something like that. But for you to take a big break on it and cancel it, it kind of messes. It makes you think, how many times is this actually going to happen? If they had to do it for this, which is understandable, but what makes you think that they won't do it in the future? This situation happened, we have to cancel it again. So you're basically taking away from those that could have potentially won it and had it in their pocket, but now they had to give it up and start all over again. A lot of the teams are not going to have the same mojo that they had this season. You're taking all that away and telling them, nope, start over again, instead of let's postpone it and let's pick up where we left off.
Yeah, exactly. Richard?
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be postponed. I think it's really tough to say. When you get a second win or a break, that also plays into how teams can be viewed, or how teams can regain it or get an advantage or not. But I just think it should be canceled, because I think, I don't want to put it to the same caliber as the World Wars, but soccer has been canceled. This isn't the first time that world football has stopped for whatever reason. This has happened before, and I think it's important to recognize that this won't be the last time. I think that what's different this time around is that there is no, it's not a war that's going on. It's something on the World Health side. And I think taking care of the players who are going to provide us with this entertainment, at the end of the day, they are still humans. They still need to stay healthy. And I think what ended up getting the most effect was when we actually started seeing players who were supposed to stay healthy who ended up being sick and on the field. And that essentially was also another way to spread this the COVID-19. So I think it was really important to stop. On the fan side of things, it's sure we would rather see any type of live soccer than anything online. But I think as humans, we need to understand that this is much bigger than football.
Yeah. Well, Richard, follow up with you, and then we'll go back to Raul. I mean, on that note, on that thinking. So let's say it does eventually happen. Everybody pretty much unanimously agrees that any level of soccer right now, especially if it happens over the summer between now and let's say September, is going to be done without fans. So what are your thoughts on, if it does happen, this whole concept of soccer being played but without fans?
Well, I think what's going to be hard, and I think we're actually seeing this over on the wrestling side of things. I don't know if you've kept up with wrestling over the years, but WWE is actually doing entertainment without the fans. And essentially
Bizarre.
wrestling, it's hard because you need a reaction to kind of say who's the bad guy versus who's the good guy in the situation. And with football, I think it would be a much easier because essentially I see football as a coming of like a place where you usually meet with people. And I mean, if you're okay with having and hosting more than 10 people at your house, then you can still do that with no problem, right?
Right. But it's definitely I think people who don't know the sport of soccer as well underestimate the social side of it, and in terms of the fan side. And Raul, what are your thoughts on that? I know, obviously, as a member of a supporter group yourself, one of our specials we're thinking about doing in June is getting some supporter group representatives here. I mean, how do you feel, especially not just as a fan, but as a supporter group, not being able to be in that stadium when your Tigres, for example, are taking the field?
It kind of takes away from watching the game. It takes away from the game of soccer overall, because that's what soccer lives off of. They live off of the fans. They live off of the feedback that they get in the stands. So if they were to go back and play in an empty stadium, it's not the same because the players can't feed off of that energy that they give. And obviously, like I'm in Houston and I'm not able to go like every other weekend or like to see Tigres. But even then, like to watch the games, it'd still be difficult to watch them here because I still can't get with the same group of friends or the same supporter group that we have here in Houston. We can't get together and watch the game. So it really takes away from the sport of soccer. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, I mean, just watch it from home. It doesn't make a difference. Just sit down, watch it at home. But it's much more than that. Sometimes you have to be standing up. Sometimes you can be sitting at home and all of a sudden one goal score can have you running all over the house. You have to feed off of that energy, and that's what they need.
Definitely. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a sport, and that unlike other sports that is not as, there's a bigger gap or difference than the in-game, in-person experience versus the TV experience. And even when it's the TV experience, watching those stadiums packed with all the fans being excited is different than watching it on TV and it's dead quiet. I think it's gonna be the same for every league, but every sport, if you will, it's gonna be different. I do have one other thing. I'm gonna come back to it when we do MLS. I do want to get to our next segment with my cousin Michael Black here and do an interview. But we're gonna come back to Euro when we talk about the MLS, because I want to get y'all's thoughts on the potential buying frenzy that's going to occur with the transfer market at the end of these seasons, because a lot of European teams are financially hurting. They're going to have to sell off some players. So we'll come back to that. But let's shift gears. And before I bring him on, just a quick introduction. So Michael Black's one of my cousins, and he is currently a senior, class of 2020, one of those seniors that's obviously missing out on a lot of the end of the senior year. But he has a lot to look forward to. He is going to be attending Trinity University, a Division III side in San Antonio, one of the top D3 soccer schools in our country. And currently, like I said, has played for Friendswood for 4 years, Friendswood High School here in Houston, Texas, and has also played on the club side, the Houston, Texas, Texan soccer here in Houston. So I want to bring him on, and we're going to get a little thought. And so without further ado, welcome, Michael. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Sean?
We're doing all right. Thanks for joining us. And like I said, we're excited. You're kind of our first outside guest that we've done an at-length interview with. So I appreciate you coming on. First question, right off the bat, I've literally known you your entire life. You've grown up in Houston. What was the first kind of thing that you can remember that put you on this journey of soccer? What do you think? What's the thing that it clicked? What do you first remember being the moment where it's like, okay, like this is what I want to like do, sort of thing?
I mean, the first person who got me interested in soccer was definitely my dad. Like, he's loved the game since he was a kid. He played when he was younger. So just like when I was getting brought up, like as a kid, we'd always be kicking a ball in the backyard and stuff like that. So just the connection that we could share between not only father and son, but just the connection over soccer was definitely something that like made it easier for me to fall in love with the game.
Mm-hmm. And did you, before you even get involved in any like organized club, like competitive club stuff, did you play any other stuff when you were younger that maybe wasn't this competitive? I mean, how did you actually first? When did you really first start actually playing some organized soccer?
I mean, when I was younger, we did like 3v3 stuff like that. But the first time I got into like a organized club was probably when I was about 12 years old, maybe younger, like 10. But that's when it kind of started getting like more competitive, and the kids who were just kind of playing for fun would get weeded out, and the kids who wanted to play more serious just kind of took it on from there.
And one of the things we always talk about here is kind of like just soccer culture. I'm just kind of curious, kind of sticking with the youth thing. Like when you were younger, did you have a lot of fellow friends growing up, like around you in the neighborhood and stuff, that were also into soccer, your good friends, or did you feel like you kind of stood out where, you know, maybe baseball and basketball and football were the more dominant sports that everybody was getting involved? Yeah.
When I was younger, like 7, 8, 9 years old, it felt like everyone played soccer.
Okay.
But once I got older, like more into junior high and early high school, like the people who I hung out with, like on the weekends, were all my soccer friends. So that's kind of who I associated myself with. But the group slowly got smaller. The older we got on, like less people would play and people wouldn't take it as serious and stuff like that.
Definitely, yeah. The people that was more of a hobby versus something more competitive change. All right, well, moving on here, kind of moving forward, was there any, if you had to pinpoint, I know this changes for people over time, but like in your formative years there, thinking into junior high and getting into high school in terms of soccer, was there any particular professional teams that you did follow, that you still follow? Are there any particular players out there, professional players, that maybe you look to as kind of a role model to model your game after?
In terms of the club side, I've always liked Manchester United. I know people will say it's like a bandwagon club, but I mean, when I was young, like, I mean, of course I'm gonna like the best team with the best players, with all the money and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm less of a fan now. I'm more of just an overall soccer fan, and I'm fans of like certain players, but that's the first team that I really started to watch. On the player side, though, one of my favorite all-around players is Cristiano Ronaldo. I know a lot of people don't like him for sometimes the way he carries himself, but I like his hard work. I like how he pushes other people to be their best. So yeah, he's one of my favorite players. And then, so I'm a center back, and so obviously I follow a lot of defenders. And I'm gonna list two of my favorite defenders. So one of them is Sergio Ramos. Again, there's a lot of like hate around him, but I like a lot of his qualities, like his leadership and stuff like that. And then I also like Thiago Silva. He's on the backside of his career, but I just think he's a really good leader and has proven his class. So
yeah, I saw some reaction there from my co-host there, as you said, some Real Madrid people, you know, former Real Madrid, Ronaldo and these guys, and Sergio Ramos. I don't think Sergio Ramos has gotten the greatest treatment on this show, from my co-host. But hey, respect. I mean, I'll ask, that's why I wanted to ask you that, because I'm glad you said, you know, you're a center back, and so kids. I mean, obviously, going to soccer, I doubt that your first thought was getting into, hey, I'm going to be the best defender and center back that I could be. You know, every kid wants to be the goal scorer, wants that.
Yeah.
When did it click in your mind that it's like that you're like, maybe I need to embrace this? Like, hey, I'm actually good in this position and I can still like stand out. Because for a lot of people, to play center back and to play defense, you can't have a lot of ego, right? I mean, I found it interesting. You listed out someone like Ronaldo, right, who talk about personality and whatnot, but kind of what was it that triggered it for you? That's like, okay, A, I'm good at this in this position, but B, I can still have just as much impact as the guys up there, you know, at forward.
Well, the first time I actually played center back was probably when I was 13 or 14 years old. I remember I'd been a center mid all my life, and our center back actually got injured for our club team. And so just moved me back one step kind of to the center back. And like, I mean, I've loved it ever since. I've always been like less technically gifted, but more like gifted in terms of speed, athleticism. So it's kind of played to my advantage in that way. And yeah, it is kind of hard at times when like you can do all the work, but one mistake and that can cost a goal. Meanwhile, someone like a winger or a striker can miss however many chances and score one and they're the hero. So it's kind of, there's a lot of pressure playing that position, but you just kind of have to embrace it and do your best. So I've come to love it.
Cool. Well, you know, let's shifting gears here. I want to look at the different levels you've played at, and Well, two you've played at and one you're going to play at. The first one I want to talk about is kind of your experiences in the club soccer world, because one of the things we comment on here, we talk a lot about the U.S. soccer system and how it's obviously been playing catch up with the rest of the world. And you look at the rest of the world, right? High school sports is not emphasized, like it is here. In fact, if you're going to be one of the top clubs, by the time you're a youth, you've been snatched up into the academy system of whatever big European club, right? Very different here in the United States. And you kind of had this dual experience of having to get out there in your own private clubs, but then also eventually still playing within the school system. So let's start with the club. Kind of talk to me, what's been your experience like? I mean, I know you played for the Texans and kind of your experience in that club soccer world, and specifically, what about that competition has been different than, let's say, high school competition?
Well, first off, playing club, it's been just like a blessing, and it's been great for my development because, like, in terms of U.S. soccer, like how it is kind of like backwards in my opinion compared to the rest of the world. The best way still is, if you want to become a professional soccer player or play at the college level, you need to be playing club as a kid. There are some issues with that, like financially or like depending on where you live. If there's not a good club like in your area, there's always going to be issues. But no, just playing at that level has definitely been good for me. The quality of play is better. The mental aspect of the game is quicker. They think quicker. The coaches have played at higher levels, so they have more experience to bring. So it's definitely probably the best. It's been the best for me in terms of getting the most out of my soccer, my high school soccer. I guess those 4 years.
Well, that's what hit me is when I first was looking at, you look at players or rosters for college teams here in the United States, including Trinity where you're going. Where most of them, it either lists their hometown or the club they're a part of, not their high school.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's crazy to me looking at any other sport, right, where it's like, oh yeah, they went to high school here, this or that. But no, it's definitely shows that the college system is obviously valuing your club
Soccer,
probably more than high school. And would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. You mentioned that the mental aspect of the game, how it developed you. How does it feel? I mean, in terms of balance, right? You at one point, right, when you get to high school, you're having to balance the commitments of that, which is a full schedule, full load, and you got your normal school, and you got the commitments to Friendswood soccer team. How did you manage, or what was kind of your strategy? I mean, how did you get through balancing all that for 4 years?
Well, I mean, I did my best, obviously, but it kind of ended up being like school, not necessarily got pushed to the back burner, but I really took like club soccer serious because I mean, like we're paying this money, we're driving this far to practice and stuff. So like, I mean, I would be up late doing my homework when I probably should have spent more time in class doing it and stuff like that, because I mean, I was just so focused on soccer at that time. But it is hard to balance and manage all that: soccer, school, family life, home life, stuff like that. So like in terms of like academies in Europe, I mean, I think they, like a lot of big academies, they live there, the schooling is done there.
Yep. Yeah.
So I mean, it's all there for you. But in the United States, it's all separate organizations kind of. So it is hard to balance everything.
And you made a good point. I'm glad you brought up a couple times, the access to resources. I mean, those of us that are fortunate enough to have the means to do all that stuff. But as you mentioned, I think we've brought up probably one of our earliest episodes here on Tech Soccer Live. We mentioned about, in certain parts of towns and certain cities, certain places, right? Like you said, not having good club teams, not having the money or resources, because soccer, like any sport, costs money. And in these club systems, you got to travel to go pretty far sometimes, drive all over the place. So yeah, exactly right. I mean, we talk about that all the time about if the U.S. soccer system as a whole is going to get better, you got to put money, across the board in these places that don't have it. So, okay, wait, let's shift gears to Friendswood, man. You are finished up there, and you did something that I thought was pretty cool this year. Like I said, once again, I love it when it's kind of like I feel like about in American football when a lineman gets recognized for something, where it's always the running back or quarterback or the receiver all fancy. When a back line guy gets recognized, and you got recognized, not only being a recognized first team all district for your district, but also the district MVP as a center back. I mean, that has to feel pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is.
So what's been the reaction to that? I mean, was anybody really surprised? Did you have a lot of people like, congratulations on that?
I mean, my whole team. It's a shame I didn't get to like find out in person. I got an email from my coach, but it is what it is. All my friends texted me, grandparents, cousins, stuff like that. So
that's cool.
I mean, yeah, it's been really cool.
So, and then this is kind of last thing in high school. I want to get to the exciting stuff, which is coming up for Trinity. Friendswood, you mentioned what the things of the game you were able to develop through the club system. Friendswood, high school. What are some big takeaways from your experiences playing for Friendswood that you can take with you to the college level that you've learned from and can benefit from?
The high school has been a learning experience too. The high school soccer. The biggest thing I would say though is so me like kind of coming from that like club back to high school season. I definitely say I could bring that type of leadership to my high school team, especially this year. Me being a senior and being one of the captains on the team, one of the oldest players. So just kind of learning how to get the best out of my other teammates who look up to me, and kind of just motivating other people to get the best out of them. And still I do learn stuff from my coaches, just a different set of coaches, different set of players that you're working with. So, I mean, the more people and coaches you can put yourself in and around, like the more well-rounded you're going to be. So it's only going to help for college and later down the line when I'm able to work with like different styles of coaching and styles of teammates and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, there's so many different people don't realize. I think people who are foreign to soccer don't realize how intricate and how widespread the philosophies are between coaches and what they focus on and how they focus on how they do it. So the more exposure, the better. Well, man, let's talk about exciting stuff. I mean, you have committed and decided you were going to a place I'm not complaining about, Trinity University in San Antonio, one of the top D3 programs. You're going to a very talented team, mix of guys across Texas, international players with one of the best coaches in the NCAA. This guy, again, he's a legend in terms of his winning and whatnot. So besides all that, we know the opposite of you. It's a good team, good school, good coach. What was it that drew your attention to Trinity? That's where I want to take my soccer career to the next level.
Well, I knew like early freshman, sophomore year when I was looking for when I was trying to get set in with the college process, get started with it. I knew I wanted to be in a big city. So being from Houston, I like that kind of urban feel. So big city, San Antonio, Dallas, something like that. And when I was younger, I always wanted to get as far away from here as possible. But the older I've gotten and like the more like I guess close to my friends and family I've gotten, I realized that like San Antonio, yeah, it's 2.5 hours away, 3 hours away, but it's so close enough I can visit on the weekends, stuff like that. Not too far away from family if they need something. So the location was definitely a big thing for me. So yes, I'm still going away to college and getting that experience, but I'm still close enough to home. Were you gonna say something?
Well, what's been the reception like? I mean, how has the reception from Trinity, the reception from have any of the current players reached out to you? I know obviously you've talked to the coaches a lot.
Yeah.
But have you met any of your new teammates or talked to your new teammates? How's that been going?
Yeah, so I guess it was in maybe last October, maybe November. I actually got to go on my visit. So I got brought up to the campus. I got a room with two of the current freshmen there, the two soccer kids. One of them was actually from Houston and one of them was from Dallas. So I got to spend the night. I think it was a Friday night there. I got to watch their game against who did they play? I think UT Dallas maybe. So I got to watch their game and then spend the rest of the day there with them. So that was pretty cool. And then like once I went up to the visit, like I knew it was a place I wanted to be. Like one, they're interested in me enough to bring me out, and two, like I just love what I've seen here and everything. So yeah, I got to meet the whole team when I did that, and they're all really cool. I was kind of worried about like in high school, there's a huge difference between like a 14-year-old freshman and 18-year-old senior, like in terms of size, maturity and stuff like that. So I was kind of worried about how they would treat me being one of the younger kids. But I guess once you're in college, like you don't really look at the differences. You're all just there for the same reason, to play soccer and get an education. So I mean, they didn't pick on me or anything, so it was pretty cool.
I'm sure there'll be some rookie hazing.
I'm sure there will, yeah. But no, and then just I guess the coach's interest in me, like he just made it feel like home and just a place that he wanted me to be. So that's what made it easy for me.
Yeah, and obviously, and having someone who's with that coaching resume,
Yeah.
I'm sure that was something that enticed you to learn from him. Well, man, I appreciate you. I just got one. I'm gonna leave it one last question, and then if Raul or Richard have anything to hop in on here or anything to follow up on, my last question, man, is what's the big vision? What's the big dream? I mean, you go to Trinity. You start playing there. You get a good education. Kind of, what do you see yourself 4 years? Like, what's the big master plan for Michael Black?
Well, I kind of like to break up my goals into short term and long term. So first, short term goals being like next month to a year, so stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to get as good as I can, as strong as I can, as fast as I can before going to Trinity. So I've been working on my game a little bit. It's harder because we can't really get outside as much, but sometimes I'll go to the fields with one of my friends and we'll practice and stuff like that. So a short-term goal being just be as prepared as I can for when I get there. Another short-term goal would be get as much playing time and or become a starter. Freshman year, I know it's hard to do, especially being a defender, but that's a goal for mine. And then long-term, like after college, I mean, I guess the dream kind of has always been to go professional, wherever that may be, but depending on how I'm doing, like who knows, maybe after 4 years I get put on with the club or get a trial with someone, maybe a USL team or something like that here in the United States, and just work my way up from there. But who knows, maybe I get an internship or something. I'm majoring in business, so maybe I just go into the business world from there. I don't know, but I like to keep my options open.
No, I like it, man. I love it. Well, man, Richard, Raul, do you guys got anything for my man here, or y'all good?
I kind of have like two questions. So like after 4 years, obviously, like you have to, like your third year going into your senior year, you have to start asking yourself like, all right, I have like two directions I can go. I'm gonna take the professional route if I can, or I'm just gonna stick to my your major and like business. Say you take the business route, and I know certain MLS teams have like open tryouts, like they have a certain a certain day that they have and you can show up. Are you still gonna keep that in your back pocket, like if you ever feel like joining somewhere?
No, I definitely think I will. I mean, like I said, even if it doesn't work out right out of college or even in the next couple years after, I mean, I'm going to be playing soccer until I physically can't. So if there's an opportunity that comes up in one of those walk-on trials or some connection that way, then I'm definitely going to take it. But just see where we are when I get there, I guess.
Okay. And my next question was, like, was there a position that you played before playing the position that you are now? Because, like, for instance, for me, I was always forward, center forward, and then as I got older and I got into high school, I ended up transitioning to midfield and then eventually like kind of to defender. Was there a position that you used to play before you started playing like center back, or no?
Yeah, when I was real young, I played winger, forward, all the attacking positions, but I just kind of slowly got like pushed back, mainly because of like, I guess my qualities and stuff. They didn't really fit the positions that I was playing previously. So when I was, like I said,
you started to realize like that you you started to realize like my qualities back here are a bit better and stronger than they are up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one thing that I realized, I mean, I actually like defending. A lot of people hate it, even if you're a defender. But I mean, I think it's fun to prevent goals and stuff like that. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. So I kind of feed off that. But like I said, the first time I actually played center back was when one of our center backs got injured in the game, and my coach just put me there, and it kind of just stuck ever since. So, but no, I didn't always start out as a center back.
Cool. Richard, you got anything?
Well, I'm not sure if Raul wanted to follow up with that.
No, I had those two questions. You can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for being here, Michael. And I just want to ask you, like, what would be your dream team? Like, if you did everything that you needed to do these next 4 years, like, where would that dream team be for you?
Like dream professional team?
Dream professional team.
I mean, realistic, like possibly realistic dream
Yeah,
team
don't say
maybe,
Manchester United.
no, that's what I was gonna say. Like possibly realistic would be maybe playing in the MLS, and for the Houston Dynamo, that'd be pretty cool to be like a homegrown kind of talent. So, but I mean, if I could play anywhere, it'd be Barcelona, Real Madrid, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
be the next Sergio Ramos.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's amazing to hear. I mean, I think definitely a lot of us got here today. We got a chance to listen to your story, and I think it's really it's really nice to be able to talk to someone who's from Houston, because I think a lot of this like homegrown talent really doesn't get the chance to get a spotlight.
yeah,
And thankfully, like you took it, and like here you are, and like now you're on your next journey. Like I definitely have met a lot of friends who are playing sports in college now, and some of them are doing it because it granted them a scholarship to pursue a career, and some of them are actually pursuing a professional career in that sport. So for you, these are going to be the next 4 years, and I guess my last question for you is like seeing with everything that's going on with COVID, how has Trinity and the staff have reached out to you about like the season starting, or how is that going to affect you?
We actually got an email a couple days ago. The season is being pushed back, or not the season, but I guess when we were supposed to show up on campus, it's being pushed back a couple weeks. Um, so just everything's kind of being pushed back. We actually have a Zoom call scheduled in the next couple weeks for all the incoming freshmen. So that'll be the first time I get to see my new teammates for the first time. But yeah, everything's electronically now, so it's not too big an issue, but it's definitely different. Like now that we can't visit face to face and stuff like that. So
And with all that, like I just want to wish you like the best of luck, and I mean hopefully like when all this clears out, like you get a chance to show them why they called you up there.
yeah,
So.
I really appreciate it.
Well, hey, Michael, we appreciate you coming on. It's been awesome having you on for an interview, and we'll definitely be keeping track. And when you do get that first start at Trinity, we'll have to have you back on.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was my cousin Michael Black, and we took a little bit longer interview there. I think it was worth it. I think you guys would agree. I think it was worth. I think there was a lot of stuff to unpack there, and it gets back to something that when we started this show 3 years ago, going on year 4 now, that it was something that we wanted to highlight. I think Richard, you started talking about it, and Raul as well. I mean, about player development and the evolution of a soccer player, but specifically that occurring here in Houston and the program here in the United States. So that was cool. So so let's switch gears. We got a couple more topics I want to hit on. Next up, I want to bring what's going on with COVID-19 and everything back here at home. So MLS has made it clear no May return. They're not even trying what Europe's doing. They're hopeful for mid-June. We'll see what happens, but still very uncertain. My big question to y'all is, like, where do y'all see this going for here in the United States? I mean, do you think we're going to follow the same lead that everyone else do in Europe? Or, I mean, we were different. The only difference makes MLS different is that we were only 2 games into our season in the MLS. The rest of the world was over 2/3, through. So does that change what the MLS does because they were only 2 games in? And if so, or if not, how do you guys envision? How do you guys think they'll proceed going forward?
Me personally, I think that MLS isn't going to cancel it. The way that they've been, like, this past couple 2 years, they've dived into a lot more soccer than just a regular season. So I guess I think they're starting to look at it like Liga MX, that there's actually a lot to kind of lose here, because it's not just one trophy. You have a couple different trophies out there now, along with you got the U.S. Open also. So I think what we're gonna see is they're not gonna cancel it, and they're gonna try and find some way to start playing again sooner or later. But I think the last couple months of the year, we're actually gonna see a lot of soccer being played, like a lot more soccer than we're used to, especially. So, like, I know that the playoffs usually happen around, I believe, is it September or October?
Well, this year they were trying to do format, and it was actually supposed to happen entirely in the month of November. But yes, in the past it started in October.
Yeah, so I can see it actually going on to like uh, like the season would end mid-November or so, and then you have like the rest of November and then like the beginning of December for playoffs, whoever makes it. So I don't think they're going to cancel it. I can see the MLS figuring some sort of format out. If anything, they'll partner like they're going to talk to Liga MX and probably go off of that format, even though they have two different seasons. Like they have like one season beginning, break summer, and then another season. They'll probably take an idea from what they're going to do and try and go off of that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely. Rich, what do you think?
no, I mean, I think we've been getting the emails from the Dynamo Press, and as of right now, they're the only thing that they've said is that they're hoping to start practices again, but like these are just very limited practices with no intention of when the league is gonna reopen up. But I think this is starting to show the value of the half seasons that like Liga MX has. I think it's going to be impossible to have 38 games in like a 4 month period. I mean, it can definitely happen, but I think the reality of things is that we do have cold winters, unlike in Mexico where like there's actual snow that can prevent games from happening. So I think December time might be a little difficult to have that MLS Cup final. It's definitely a possibility, but I'm just saying like I think that it would be nice. I think it would be an interesting point for MLS to start considering shorter tournaments to similar to Mexico to kind of fight this off in a way where like it's still something competitive, but it's just gonna look different. And I think the benefit that MLS does have is that it still divides its conferences up, so you can still have a much dynamic tournament without having to lose the integrity of the 38 matches. It can just be less, and you can still have that playoff at the end. But I don't know.
Definitely.
But if they were to split the two seasons like that, where do you think that they would incorporate the MLS US Open?
Well, Raul, you hit the nail on the head. There's two things there. I mean, you'd have to untangle what you've already set up in terms of a lot of these cups and tournaments to make them align. The other problem is that the MLS, by nature, by dividing itself into two conferences, West and East, unlike any other soccer, league, there's a format thing there. Like who do you play and how to play. My thing is, I kind of with Richard, like this could be an opportunity to experiment. I don't think it's going to be a permanent solution, but what I would use this to have have a season. My solution, I think I was telling you about this, was to have you have 14 teams in I think like 14 now, 13 or 14 teams in each 13 I think in each conference. Play a season where you play all of your fellow, that's 12 games against all of your conference opponents, and then do a little interleague where it's basically 4 games. So maybe 16 game season. So a half season, but you play every opponent in your conference plus 4 others, and then do a little, like I said, a little playoff, top 4 from each one or something like that. Just to experiment with it, because like I said, until you play with this, I don't know how. There's not an easy answer because like you just said, there's going to be a ripple effect. And now, because it's awesome that the MLS and Liga MX have grown closer together in terms of some of the competitions we see, the quality of play. But when you tie yourself together, you're together. And so it's already complicated as it is with one league being so different in its format than the other. I think it's going to be really hard. Even ironically, I think it's going to be harder just to merge them together. I don't know. It's just my thought.
And something that we lose, unfortunately, through COVID, or I don't know, like there hasn't been much stuck because you haven't even started the league back up. But it's that game that MLS wanted to have against the Liga MX All Star match. I think that was going to be an amazing game that I think all of us were looking forward to. But now, unfortunately, like we don't even know if it's still going to happen, and all that planning that was going on for that.
Yeah,
I think that's going to get pushed back, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I think you're going to do everything you can to make stuff happen. It's either stuff's eventually going to. We're either going to have this super intense, crammed in period of like lots of soccer. It's going to be nuts. Or they're going to have to start pulling stuff out because there's only so much you can do. My other concern, I mean, not from the money. You want to talk about money long term, your players. I mean, they're going to need time to get back into shape, conformally train as a team. And with any sport, if you overextend guys and overpush guys, you're risking injuries. And I'm afraid that if we do this, we're going to see a huge wave of injuries, that come through. So, it's something to think about. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be legit or not in terms of like, can you make all those things happen? It's great in theory. That's why I said, I'm not saying what the Dutch league was the best thing, but I think that's why the Dutch league basically said, screw it. They said, F it. We're throwing this thing out. Because it's like, they're like, they didn't want to even try. We don't want to set people up and get excited and then nothing, or even worse. So, with that, I want to get y'all's guys' opinion with MLS before we shift gears. Richard, I want you to bring some news you were sharing with me on the women's side of the game. But money, speaking of money and whatnot, do you guys buy any of this? Because I'm really intrigued by this, that a lot of European teams and teams around the world were already financially hurting before this, and they relied so much on in-person attendance that a lot of these teams are going to be either bankruptcy right now, or about to declare. And I'm not talking about the Man U's and the Liverpools, but I'm talking about those decent mid-level and lower tier teams in some of these top divisions. Some of them are going to be hurting, and there's a lot of quality players down there, especially compared to the MLS and maybe even Liga MX. Do you think there's any opportunity here for MLS and Liga MX teams who do have money and do have these ownership groups that are willing to spend money to maybe use this as an opportunity to buy players to get them over here, get quality up? I mean, I think it'd be interesting to see some moves that could happen, because just the one example I saw was Barcelona saying something. Even Barcelona saying that like what they paid for Dembele originally, like it basically is half the price now. Someone could get him for half the price, which is still a lot of money. It's still like 80 million euros, but it's not 160. So, or whatever it was. I mean, do you guys see opportunities for North American teams to try and get some of these players, or you think that's overblowing it?
No, I don't think so. I think you're right. This isn't a perfect opportunity, because I think when you were willing to spend a lot of money to bring Wayne Rooney, or to see like the players like Zlatan, like teams were willing to buy them, even though they might have not been in their prime. Although let's not disregard that these are great players as well. Like players who are in their early 20s who are doing an amazing job probably won't get sold, but at least like you were mentioning, like Dembele, like seeing him in a team like Toronto FC or with the New York Red Bulls, like I think that can definitely be a possibility. And if teams are willing to put the money for it, like I know David Beckham and his team, the Miami FC, the LAFC, LA Galaxy, the New York City FC, like all these new teams that do have money, like they're probably going to be the first ones to spend it.
Yep. Bro, what do you think?
Yeah, you have to kind of look at it in the aspect, because I mean, a lot of these MLS teams, I feel like the newer ones are actually going to have like the money to throw out there, because I mean they have to build a squad regardless.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing, some teams are actually going to invest in it. Like, all right, let's invest in some players. Let's bring some players over, and at the same time, they're selling players to put some money in their pockets for like the following season. And like it would be a good thing, like if your cousin was over there, they have to bring up the younger talent, so that would be a shot for him, so they pull him up and he gets to play. And that would kind of suck for the people here. Instead of bringing up the younger talent, they're going to go out and buy bigger players, which I mean it's understandable. But I mean, yeah, your teams like LA Galaxy, LAFC, you have San Jose, you have Miami, you have all these teams that have started getting bigger and better. They're obviously gonna throw out some sort of money, like, hey, all right, let's try and bring some of these players over and use them while we can, because eventually they're gonna want to go back. They're gonna want to go back to their homeland.
Right. Well, and that's why it's interesting to see people on kind of loan and say instead of full on transfer. I mean, it could be some reduced, because teams in Europe may not want to give up rights to someone completely, but they may be willing to, in the financial hard times, loan someone for a year or two, or whatever it may be. So, and I agree with both y'all. I mean, talk about the markets. You ain't gonna see no Houston Dynamo. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be hating on my home team here. Houston Dynamo, being a bunch of bums as they are, who can't even get someone from Latin America who's of any talent, that's legit, who in their prime. No offense to to the guys on the team, to Manotas or Quintero and all those guys, but if they can't even do that, they sure as heck ain't going to draw. I mean, that's the thing. Money talks. Hey, here's the dangerous thing. Your FC Dallas or Houston Dynamo, you talk about new teams. You're right, Raul. New teams are excited and they have much money. Well, guess what new team is coming down 45 minutes down the road from here? Austin. They come online next season, and they got little Matthew McConaughey over there. All right. About to be spending money all over the place. So those guys are going nuts. They're excited. They sold out their season tickets in 30 minutes or less, like 10 minutes. Like crazy. That'll be scary. Austin FC could land some 3 or 4 legit European nationals over here already with the expansion super draft that they're going to get access to. So they get access to certain people's players. If Dallas and Houston ain't careful, they're going to wake up and all of a sudden they ain't going to be number 1 or 2 in the state anymore. They need to recognize that's on that. So you're right. These newer teams with excited owners, with popular support, they're where it wants to go. And if you don't have that, you got to have the towns and cities that people want to play in. Everybody loves playing in Miami. Everybody loves playing in LA, under the lights. So Houston, we do have a problem. We need to get our butts together and actually figure out what we're doing here. Same thing with I felt bad for the teams you're talking about a new team like Miami. I feel like Nashville has a chance. I mean, and Columbus and all these other, Sporting KC, quality sides, but they just don't. I'm sorry, selling a European player on Columbus, Ohio, ain't the same as Miami and David Beckham. I mean, it just ain't. You know how that's going to talk. So, Joel just commented about the Austin coming with a new sponsor, Vestige. Heck yeah, Joel, they're going to be spending money. And Joel, yeah, San Antonio's been trying to get a team, but their problem has not been the investors, it's been the city. The city and the investors have not been to agree on a new stadium. Mm-hmm. So the problem is that they wanted to put them in the old crappy Alamo Dome and stuff and all this other stuff, and they won't build a new facility for them. So what I heard from the MLS is that once Austin FC got their business together, that they weren't going to put another club that close in that metro kind of area because they're so close to each other. If they have money and get it together, you could potentially see a 4th team. I think it'd be a stretch, though, to see a 4th team in Texas, especially in markets that close together, especially an expansion team. They'd have to maybe buy someone. But I know San Antonio has kind of gone back to the drawing board as trying to figure out how to develop some of their other sides. I think it could become a big division, a second tier team, which they already have been before. But Austin beat them to it. Unfortunately, it was an arms race between San Antonio and Austin won. All right, shifting gears, guys, we're chugging right along here. Let's go to topic number 4 of 5, with 5 being really short. Our last big topic, and that is our friends down in Mexico and their reaction to this whole mess. Oh, back up. Richard, I forgot because I didn't have it on my list here for things. Still under topic number 3. Tell us real quick what's been going on with this whole women's national team and some legal mess that just all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, but it got real all of a sudden.
Right. Well, as some of you may have heard, after the World Cup last year, 2019, the Women's World Cup, as some of y'all know, it is the U.S. women's national team actually had filed a lawsuit against U.S. Soccer for discriminating against the equal pay compared to their men counterparts. And unfortunately, they had this time around, they disclaimed that U.S. Soccer didn't discriminate them based on gender for equal pay. So that's actually, I don't know, it's just very unfortunate, because I think we talked about this last year on how important it is, or how difficult it is to quantify how much players should be paid. But if they're coming from the same association, which is the U.S. Soccer, that at least they should be getting paid the same. And unfortunately, we haven't gotten the details on what their basis of pay is. And
well, and what I heard from the judge in the latest ruling was that there was, like I said, there wasn't enough that he said to put in wage discrimination, but there was other counts of discrimination, period, which I found interesting. I'll be curious to see what the full. I haven't read the full brief on this or what the full decision was, but like I said, there is levels of discrimination, but not enough to say wage discrimination, which is I find that very interesting.
Yeah, I honestly just consider it as like an offense to all soccer in general, because I think if you're playing the sport, it should be like a job. Like, you know, you have a job, you're getting paid as a IT person. That IT person is probably going to get paid the same as the other IT person that comes. I mean, you have to put it on the basis of seniority or whatever. But in this case, these are our women. These are our national champions, our world champions. I think the fact that they are not earning the same as men, on whatever basis you put it on, is unfair.
Well, and you made a good point. We're not having some debate here. I mean, it's one thing we can maybe go down that path and listen to people who want to make the argument about the professional leagues, about, you know, the private professional leagues, you know, like you know, women's soccer. But you make a good point here. We're not talking about that here. We're talking about, to begin with, we're talking about the national association, U.S. Soccer, as you said, and like, you know, talking about ultimate equality. Both teams are representing this country on the world stage, you know, et cetera. So it's not the same argument that some people will make with the domestic leagues, which is about, you know, how much money they're bringing in and this and that. I would argue, I don't know about you, but I remember after the Women's World Cup, I think the women's national team jerseys were outselling the men's national team jerseys by far in terms of apparel and whatnot. So we can talk about the difference that the women's professional league is not making as much money as the MLS, but in terms of the national team's on par, if not making more money for U.S. soccer than the men's team is. I mean, that's just reality.
And there's other claims as well, like even simple things, like you would think that they get the same charter buses or plane tickets. They're not getting the same treatment there as well. Like they have to go through like cheap flights, cheap hotels, and that's how we're treating our World Cup champs. Like I think if anything, we should be giving them more on the merit basis of them actually winning a World Cup tournament, something that the men haven't even done. Something the men didn't even do by qualifying to the World Cup the 2018. So
yeah, definitely.
I think what they need to do is they need to flip what they give the women, give it to the men, and like tell the men, like, hey, get your shit together and qualify for the goddamn World Cup, because if you're not, this is what you're going to be getting to be going to play your friendlies and stuff.
Yeah, like
while they're out winning World Cups, you can't even get in.
Yeah, like, spend the money, like give them the access to the facilities and the training and everything to get better the team. But all the other perks, and there's what I call non-essential. We're living in the age of COVID-19 of things that are essential and non-essential. It ain't essential that they're in some 5-star hotels and getting all this and that and blah blah blah. I mean, give both teams the essentials when it comes to training facilities and access to all that stuff and medical care. But all these other perks and other things, like you earn it. You earn that, literally. So, no, I'm with you, man. We need to maybe that speaks something broader to the culture and just U.S. soccer in general, right? Is this idea of not earning stuff? I mean, we play in this, this thing of everybody gets a trophy and all this stuff. No, guess what? The women's national team is the only national team from this country that has gotten a darn trophy. So, give them the respect that they earn. Put some respect on that name. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
and to add to that news, like I told y'all last week, the U.S. Soccer Academy as well was canceled. So any player who was on the academy from under 17 down, they all got cut their funding and won't be playing until further notice.
Okay. Well, actually, before we move on to the next 7, I know Richard, you got to head out here, and I know we're going a little long, but I know you said you had to head out here. So, Raul and I are going to finish up with talking some Liga MX and some esports. So, Richard, I know you got to go, but appreciate you jumping in with us. And those of you staying with us on the stream, we're going to go for another about 15 minutes here, and then we'll be wrapped up. So, thanks, Richard. We will see you next time.
Awesome, guys. Seeing y'all again. Take care. Okay.
Later. All right, back at it again. Let me remove that one. All right, so let's get to it, my friend. Let's talk a little Liga MX and all the nuts madness that was going on here. So big thing from Liga MX, all the same stuff, right? I get it around the country and all this stuff and around the world. But the biggest news that came out of Mexico was the Liga MX, the top division, saying, come down, ruling in, saying, no promotion, no regulation for the next 5 years. Effectively making Ascenso, the second division, basically a developmental league. And all the controversy now that's come because the 12 Ascenso teams agreed to this and took a payment, a financial bailout in exchange for becoming this league. So they were complicit. But now you see some teams jumping ship. We see literally a rebel league forming of other former Division II teams and other sides who say they don't want to compete with the with Liga MX. They say they're basically like what the XFL is to the NFL. Well, rest in peace XFL. But they want to be something like that. That's a plug in the gap. Maybe play. That's this another alternative. So, what is your? I'm curious as a Mexican soccer fan. This whole just mess. What is going on here, and what does this mean long term, if anything, for these sides?
I kind of think that they started to realize, like, obviously, like, there's a chance that they could lose some big teams that have been in the first division for the longest, but at the same time, you have a chance to bring up these second division teams, but they'll end up just falling back unless they pay. But I mean, I know that they're not going to pay because you have to pay millions of dollars. Veracruz couldn't pay it. We've seen Dorados come up. We've seen Leones Negros come up. And then after a season or so, they go back down. It's just like, do we really need to have it? Or can we keep it around but just, like, basically start pushing kids in there and build them up? And you're basically going to turn – like, you have those teams – like, you're giving them like how the Astros have the Corpus Christi Hooks and the Dynamo has the
Rio Grande Valley. Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah. So it's like you would give a team to, like, Tigres and a team to, like, Reals. Or since they're both from the same place, you have one team and you, like, basically draft players out of there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem is that you don't have it's not equal, and you're going to have winners and losers in the sense that you're not going to assign it because these are still independent clubs. They're still in the business of making money for themselves. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I can see from both sides. I guess my opinion, being pessimistic, seeing Liga MX come out and so fiercely go after this LBM, this new league that popped up, and basically threatening teams that are that are trying to join it and this and that. That shows me that, I mean, obviously, like everything else, unfortunately, it's about money, and they're trying to monopolize. I mean, you have these 18 Liga MX, and I think it was a conscious effort to consolidate. It's a power move. It's consolidating power. And as we said before, some of these teams that actually were on the verge of getting relegated, some of these historic teams in Liga MX, Chivas, but they basically were protecting themselves. It's protecting themselves so they can lock it up. So it's unfortunate. I think that with the influence and political and money influence that Liga MX has as a league within the Mexican Soccer Federation, I don't think this Rebel League stands a chance. I mean, what do you think?
I think, like, sadly, I think they're going to be like the XFL, even though the XFL didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I think for them, it'll go for so long, but they're going to invest so much money that they're not going to get anything out of it, and they're going to have to, like, get rid of it right away. I say it will last a year. After a year, that's it, because they invested too much money into it and aren't getting anything back out of it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, you can look at one perspective, half glass full, half glass empty, and that's the half glass empty. Half glass full, as you said, if Ascenso really embraces itself as a developmental type league, and they talk about putting rules where you can only have up to 5 players over the age of 23 or something like that. What this could mean, and maybe this is why the Mexican Federation is backing it as a soccer federation, is this could maybe finally produce some results for the Mexican national team in the sense that you have a team that's not only you have a league that's not only dedicated to developing for your national league, but it's developing for the system, period. It also opens up a lot of spots to Mexican players. We talked about this. The Mexican league, just like the MLS, has become increasingly foreign in the terms of its makeup. I mean, think about the number of non-Mexican players that are playing in Liga MX and same thing in MLS. This gives an opportunity for some of those younger Mexican players to actually get some legit playing time and whatnot. Not they weren't before, but without the added pressure of trying to, because it's a money game, and those games, those teams can't stay afloat because they're constantly worried about the dollars coming in, the pesos coming in. So there are players that are joining the other league. Let's see what it does. There's some other minor sides that have joined it. A couple of the Ascencio teams have already said they're hopping over, but let's see how it pans out. You got any other thoughts on that before we go to our final thing, or what are your other thoughts on Liga MX? I mean, do you think they're going to be like the MLS? Do you think they're going to basically sit tight here? Do you think they're going to try and push and get these games going back sooner rather than later?
I think they're just waiting it out because they're actually trying to come up with some sort of system to where they can play the rest of these games, because they only had 7 more games left before they got into playoffs. Yeah. So I think what they're going to start doing is they're going to maybe I can see them starting to play 2 games a week and then hop right into playoffs like they normally would. Will they have fans? I'm not sure, but I know for a fact that they're going to have a champion for this year.
I was about to say, if there was ever a league that was not going to do what the Dutch league did, it would be Liga MX. I mean, I don't see Mexican teams and fans accepting a blank champion for a year. You know what I'm saying? So no, I agree with you with that. Okay, last up, and this will be quick because I just want to get your opinion on it because I think it's stupid. The fact that this goes for every sport that's trying to entertain us with esports, stop it. Just stop it. I mean, it's embarrassing. I mean, it's almost as bad. I'm gonna tell you. I don't know if you watched the NBA and that stupid horse tournament that they had. I don't need to watch grown men and women play horse. Like, that's not entertaining. Like, no, I'd rather watch bowling or poker. Okay, on TV. I mean, seriously. But when I turn on the television, prime time, ESPN, and I'm seeing a couple players from Europe play each other. Not even guys who are good at playing video games. It's guys that suck. They just play the real game, but they suck at video games. Playing each other in this tournament that people are actually commentating on. Oh, this is what COVID-19 has done. This is coronavirus at its worst. And the fact that I get on Twitter today and the first tweet I see from the Dynamo is, "Oh, we lost a heartbreaker 1-0 to FC Dallas in overtime in freaking FIFA." And guess what? FC Dallas, who wanted to try and troll and brag us, they went on an hour later and played NYFC's E-Star and their MLS player and got their butts kicked. And now New York FC is bragging about going to the finals in May 17th broadcast. I mean, dude, how stupid is this? I mean, are we just that bored? Or I mean, why? Just why? I want to get your take on it, because Mexican teams have done it too. It ain't MLS. Every league has done this crap.
It's kind of pointless. I mean, if anything, all it shows is some of these people who play soccer actually suck at playing video games and they suck at playing FIFA. It doesn't really show anything. I guess for gamers who actually love playing FIFA and they like watching soccer, I guess it's pretty interesting to them. Let's see what this player got. He's good on the field. Let's see if he can control himself on the game. Well, it's just a waste of time. And for some reason, people love watching it. I'm not sure why, but people love it. And I find it stupid, but I guess
we could do it right now. If you and I wanted to get someone to stream in here with their FIFA and share their screen, you and I can be over here on the side like a couple, jabbering idiots with our headsets on the side here, looking at, oh, look at him. He pressed X so well. Oh my God. Stop it. Just stop it. So for those of you that care about that, the Dynamo are no longer in the MLS tournament. Thank God. I don't want to hear any more about that. So anyways, I mean, I'll give them one good thing. there was money involved for the clubs, and it's going to charity. That's the only good thing of this whole thing. As these things invented, we're going to charity. So, fine. But the rest of it's stupid. I mean, what was it? Who was the guy that won? Oh, the Premier League one was won by the Wolves, and it's like, yeah, that's about the only time that the Wolves in Premier League are going to win any Premier League championship. Sorry, guys. So, it was just stupid. And then they didn't even pick their best players to play it. They just picked some random guy, about 2/3 down the bench. They're like, okay, come on, you got nothing to do, and just, I mean, the intensity that some of the gaming nerd hosts had for this was just, it just made me sick. So, anyways, that's my little mini rant I like to do every episode, and it was about esports and FIFA. They need to stop. So, hey, before we close things off here, how about you kind of talk to the people a little bit about what we're going to be trying to organize for our June episode? We know that live soccer is not going to be back still in most places in June, but how about you explain to the people what we're trying to do here and kind of the concept?
Basically, me being part of a fan group, I've got to travel to different places in the U.S. I've gotten to travel to Mexico to be inside the stadium to watch them play. And since I'm part of the fan group, I've established my spot. I have a spot in the fan group, and I'm in charge of like the art and stuff, hanging stuff up, moving stuff around, collecting stuff, whether it's money for tickets, whether it's flags, stuff like that. I'm in charge of it. And what I wanted to do was I kind of wanted to bring along some of the people that are, I guess you can call them leaders, or like they're up there in the ranks for the support groups that I'm part of, and have them come on and talk about what life is like over there, what it's like for game days, like the day before the game, traveling away days, what it's like, and what goes into it, like the days before, weeks before. Because the support group that we have in Mexico, the main one, they start planning when they get the schedule. They pick 1 or 2 games already, like maybe a month or so ahead, and they start planning for that game, and they want to plan on taking like 20,000-30,000 people. So right. Like we can talk, I want to ask them like what goes into that process, like planning that whole month, what goes into it.
So bringing back full circle, we talked about how pivotal the fans play in the sport of soccer. So I loved Raul's idea, and then Richard was on board. Like I said, we're going to be doing what I call a supporter group special in June. Whereas Raul said we talk about the whole process, what goes into this. But to do that, we're going to bring on a series of people, a series of interviews. So we're hoping to bring on members of supporter groups from different leagues. We're going to try and have leadership from the Houston Dynamo supporter groups. As Raul said, the Tigres Libres y Locos supporter group. Some of the local supporter groups for European teams. We're going to reach out to Liverpool and some other groups and get their people on board. So we're going to have 4 or 5 representatives talk about that. And then what they all have in common is talk about how they're going to adapt their fan culture and supporter group culture to the transition back to not being allowed in the stadium. So we hope you guys find that interesting. We've always been wanting to dive into the fan and supporter group culture more, and Raul being a member of one of those groups, we've always been around it. But I think it'll be cool to bring in people, and like I said, to see it and how it manifests itself in different leagues, and see how the supporter group culture looks like over in Mexico versus Europe versus here. So we're excited for that. So once again, guys, that brings us to the end of our show. We appreciate you all tuning in. We appreciate our guest today, Michael Black, and wish him all the luck at Trinity. If you guys are watching this on playback, as I said, the topics have been listed here in the bottom. This will be uploaded to YouTube this evening. And as always, remember, you can follow at Texas Soccer Live, at Texas Soccer Live on YouTube, on Facebook if you're watching it now, and on Twitter. So we are on those three platforms, all of them at Texas Soccer Live. Please like, follow, share. We appreciate it. So remember, comment and reach out. And if you guys have someone you think would be good as an interview on here, reach out to Raul or myself or Richard, and we can get them on. We'd love to have guests. And also, guys, tell us how you like this format. We're streaming from 3 separate locations. We're usually together. And tell us how you like this and how it looked and how it felt and how it's set up. So with that, I'm going to set up our our outro song here, and we will be out. So Protect Soccer Live. I'm Sean Telez. That's Raul Villarreal. Y'all stay safe. Stay home. And, well, hang on. I thought I was going to be smooth with that, but I wasn't. Got to share the audio. Original theme song. And we're still on the screen. All right. We'll let this play out, and then I'll cut the live stream off after.
If any of y'all are still around, oh shit, there's 7 people watching. Here's my ticket from when I went to New York and watched New York FC versus Adidas.
Nice.
I have like a collection of these, and only paid $30 for this ticket. And it was lower bowl too, so I mean, which is not bad for a visiting team. $30 for a ticket is not bad.
Yeah, those of you still watch. If you didn't know, this is our original song. Copyright. Don't even try and take it. I'll come sue you. Courtesy of some of the students at HSPBA.
An original.
Attack Soccer Live original. And 30 seconds.